Hi, I'm your teacher, Mrs. Olson. This is a little tutorial on how to do Cornell notes. I'm going to click to the next slide. So, what are they? Cornell notes were actually designed by a professor at Cornell University, hence the name. Cornell is an Ivy League college located in New York State. So, what do Cornell notes do exactly, and why are they so great? Well, there's actually scientific data that shows that taking Cornell notes and doing them properly actually increases grades. And when your grades have been increased, that means that you know more. So that right there is just a little example, a graphic that shows you how your Cornell notes should be formatted. And in Canvas, I have given you a template and written directions for Cornell notes. So how should we explain how do Cornell notes work and why do they work? I like to explain that it's kind of like your brain is working out. So what I mean by that is that when you take Cornell notes, your brain is actually using a couple of different brain processes. Like if your brain was running, it's doing one type of process. If your brain was doing a kettlebell workout, it is doing another type of brain process. And maybe your brain is also lifting weights. The idea being is that you are using a couple of different parts of your brain when you're doing Cornell notes. Opposed to, let's just say that you're reading the information. I like to equate it to a guy or girl who's weightlifting, but they only work on, say, their upper body and not their legs, like this guy right here. So if you use Cornell notes the way that they're supposed to be used, then you are working a couple of different parts of your brain, and your brain is going to remember more information. So we're going to go to the next slide and recap what Cornell notes do. So when you read information, you're right, reading is good. However, reading and taking notes, that's even better because you're recording the information. But if we go one step further and we read and take Cornell notes, that's actually one of the best practices for learning information. So, step one in Cornell notes. You can apply Cornell notes and the ideas behind them to reading, like you're going to get from me, or listening to lectures. Let's say that you take a class in a different school or when you go on to college. So you're reading the assigned information and or you're listening to a lecture, right? So there we are reading and studying. Now, I'm going to tell you that you can do your Cornell notes either typed or you can handwrite them. So if you handwrite them, you're going to be printing off the Cornell note template and then you'll be writing on that. If not, you can write directly into the document that I give you through Canvas. Okay, so the graphic there on the right side of your screen just shows you the format of taking Cornell notes, especially if you write them. And then I wanted to include this graphic here in the middle because I think that drawing, sketching, using graphics to illustrate the ideas that you are learning and recording is great because, again, you're using another brain process which helps your mind to remember. Okay, step two. Now, on the template that you are given on the top left side, you are going to be writing down the topic. And in Canvas, you are going to see that I will label the assignment Cornell Notes dash the number of the section 2.3.2, whatever it is, and then what that section is named. The early civilizations, the Mongol Empire, women in World War II. So whatever the topic is, that's the title of the section. Okay? Now, the essential question you will see at the top in the middle. So think of it like the big overarching idea to the section that you are going to be reading. I'm going to tell you that the essential question, you'll never have to write it or figure it out on your own because you can take it generally from the front page of the assigned reading. Here I said, look at the front page of the assigned reading and steal it. So just take it off of that front page and write it down under the spot that says essential question on your Cornell Notes template. Okay? All right, we've got this. We're through step 2. Step 3, this is where you are going to really be recording the information as you read, okay? So I'm going to tell you, if I could highlight this, I think my cursor can go there. You are going to be recording important information. So the idea here is that you read a section. Maybe you read a paragraph at a time or 2 or 3 paragraphs at a time. And then you pause and you kind of recap in your mind and decide which pieces of information are most important to write down in your notes. Don't copy entire paragraphs and really try to not write complete sentences. Okay? So, as you go through and you're writing your notes, you do want to write in note format. So try to abbreviate, try to come up with your own ways to create shorthand or abbreviations. So example, I often, when I'm writing my own notes and I come across the word government, I don't write out the whole word government. I use GOV to abbreviate government. Another one, don't write out the entire World War II, write WW2 or WW Roman numeral 2. Okay? Ideas for creating shorthand. You can even use little sketches or symbols to write down information in your notes. It's completely okay and encouraged. Okay. Step 4. Now, before I talk about step 4, I also want you to realize that it's okay to study in chunks of time. So if I give you, say, 18 or 22 pages in your online text to read, try not to read for a whole 2 hours straight. Try to read for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And take notes, of course, during that time, but allow your brain a little bit of time to rest, if you will. And that doesn't mean rest, you like study for 20 minutes and then rest for 2 hours and then go back and study for 20 minutes. We're talking about giving like brain breaks for 5 or 10 minutes after you've studied for 20 to 30 minutes, okay? So after you have read the entire section and you've taken notes in chunks of time, you're going to go to step 4. And step 4 is really clarifying the information that you have written down on the right side of your Cornell notes, and step 4 is in the left side. Okay? So here I said left column, you are clarifying. What does that mean exactly? So here you are using another brain process. You're looking at the right side of your notes. You are deciding which pieces of information and details are most important to clarify or pull out and write on the left side. So maybe you look at the right side and you're seeing some main ideas, some big words. You write those on the left, okay? So perhaps the idea is about Mesopotamia. It's a huge region in early civilizations. I do want you to write down questions. So you are formulating questions off of the information that you've written on the right side. Again, this is a way for your brain to process that same information. And when you're processing a couple of different ways, it helps the information to stick in your memory better. Okay? So there's a question. What modern day country does Mesopotamia lie? Hint, it's Iraq. Maybe you're pulling out key points. So if we're talking about early civilizations in that time period, maybe you are going to pull out an idea being the Indus River because water is a huge component in understanding that era of history. Another idea, dates in history. Now, I'm not going to ask you test questions that are specific dates unless I tell you otherwise. Um, but dates help us to understand the context of what was going on in the world during the time period that we studied. So, we're talking about Mesopotamia and early civilizations, then we're talking about 4500 BCE if we were taking notes on this section. And the last part is, of course, people. People is what makes history. So you could pull out famous leaders. You could pull out groups of people, which is what I did here, and talk about the Phoenicians, who you will be reading about when you start reading about the early civilizations. Okay. Now you have written down notes on the right-hand side. You have taken breaks. You have gone back and clarified and filled in the left column. Now you're almost done. You're at step 5, which is to summarize. Okay? Now, your summary you're going to find at the bottom of the template. And your summary, even if your Cornell notes are 2, maybe even 3 pages long, your summary really should only be a paragraph. You might even think of it as a chunky paragraph, so a little bit longer of a paragraph if you had to read, say, 25 pages and you've taken 3 pages of Cornell notes. Okay? So think of a summary as a shortened version of the big ideas. It's you bringing all of your ideas together in this synopsis, in this summary that you find at the bottom. Okay, you've gone through, you've taken your Cornell notes, and hopefully all of that information is sticking in your memory just a little bit better than you having only read the info. Hopefully this helps, and if you ever have any questions, please let me know. Have fun. Good luck.